Good evening. Today, you'll hear a story based on real-life events. It's about a family secret, an old letter, and a truth revealed only 30 years later. Sometimes, just one chance discovery can change everything a person has believed for most of their life. Get comfortable. We're getting started. A letter that was 30 years late. Sometimes a person's life changes not because of a big event, not because of winning the lottery, not because of a chance meeting on the other side of the world, and not even because of the phone call you've been waiting for. Sometimes, it's enough to just open an old closet. This is exactly what Andrei Sokolov, an ordinary 52-year-old man who never considered his life particularly interesting, once did. That evening, he stood in the middle of his late mother's apartment, holding a yellowed envelope. Written on it were just a few words. To Andrei, give it to him when he turns 20. Andrei turned 20 years old 32 years ago. He reread the inscription several times, hoping he'd made a mistake. But the name was his, and he recognized the handwriting immediately. It was his mother's. There was a short letter inside, just one page, and on the very last sheet, there was an old black-and-white photograph of a young, unfamiliar man holding a little boy in his arms. This boy was Andrei. He didn't yet know that in a few days he would be heading to a city he hadn't seen in almost 40 years. He didn't know that he would meet the man he had always considered responsible for his family's misfortunes. And he certainly didn't suspect that the truth would be completely different from what he had been told. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This story began much earlier. Chapter 1. Ordinary Life. Andrei lived in a small town where news spread faster than it could happen. He worked as a repairman for a repair company. He fixed heating systems, replaced wiring, installed doors, and had long since gotten used to the fact that people only turned to him when something broke. In a sense, this was not just about work. When a friend's roof leaked, they called Andrei. When a neighbor's car wouldn't start, they called him again. If someone needed a wardrobe moved, a fence repaired, or a relative picked up at the train station, everyone knew who to call. Andrei rarely refused. He was generally a calm person. He disliked conflict, didn't raise his voice, and almost never argued. In his youth, he thought this was a good quality. As he grew older, he began to understand that sometimes calmness concealed a simple fear of change. He had a wife, Lena, an adult daughter, Marina, and a 10-year-old grandson, Anton. He and Lena lived together for 28 years. During that time, they had several heated arguments, almost divorced once, and then somehow got used to each other again. Their life was like an old wall clock. Sometimes it would slow down. Sometimes it would start to creak. But it kept going, because no one dared stop it. Lena worked as an administrator at a medical center. She'd return home later than Andrei, set her bag on a chair, and usually ask, "What's wrong? Have you had dinner?" It was her way of saying that she was worried about him. Andrei answered, "Not yet, I was waiting for you." And that was his way of saying pretty much the same thing. They weren't unhappy, but they hadn't called themselves happy for a long time either. They simply lived, as thousands of families do. Work, groceries, bills, occasional trips to the dacha, and conversations about how long it was time to replace the old sofa. The only person Andrei called almost every day was his mother, Valentina Petrovna. She was 78 years old. For the last few years, she had lived alone in an old two-room apartment on the other side of town. Andrei offered to move in with them, but her mother always refused. "I still walk to the store myself," she said. "When I forget where the store is, then you can pick me up." She was a woman of character, short and thin, but remarkably stubborn. Even the doctors tried not to argue with her. Valentina Petrovna didn't like to talk about the past. All Andrei knew was that his father, Nikolai, died in a car accident when he was 4 years old. After that, his mother never remarried. There was only one photograph of my father hanging in the apartment, a serious young man in a light shirt looking somewhere past the camera. As a child, Andrei often looked at this photo. He wanted to understand what his father was like. Was he cheerful or strict? Did he like fishing? Did he know how to play the guitar? Did he ever hold little Andrei in his arms? The mother answered such questions briefly. He was a good man. He worked a lot. If Andrei continued to ask questions, she found a reason to leave the room. Over time, he stopped asking. A person can get used to almost anything, even the lack of answers. But sometimes, in the evenings, Andrei caught himself with a strange thought. He was 52 years old, and he still knew almost nothing about the first 4 years of his life. Chapter 2. The Last Conversation. A week before her death, Andrei's mother called him herself. It happened on Thursday, around 9 o'clock in the evening. Andrei was sitting in the kitchen, trying to fix the handle of an old saucepan. Lena was watching TV in the living room. Someone was loudly arguing on the screen, and a light autumn rain was falling outside. The phone vibrated on the table. "Yes, Mom." She was silent for a few seconds. "Andriusha, are you busy?" He looked at the pan and grinned. "It's a very important matter. I'm saving the family property." Normally, the mother would have laughed, but this time she didn't react. "Can you come tomorrow? Did something happen?" "No, nothing special. I just want to talk." There was something unfamiliar in her voice, not fear or anxiety, rather the weariness of someone who has carried a heavy bag for too long and has finally decided to put it down. "Of course I'll come, after work." "Come alone." Andrei frowned. "Why alone?" "Just come. There are things you need to know." He wanted to ask what she was talking about, but at that moment Lena called him from the room. "Andrei, can you hear me? Marina is calling." "Mom, let's talk about everything tomorrow, okay?" "Okay," Valentina Petrovna answered quietly, and then she added, "Just be sure to come." Necessarily. This was the last promise Andrei made to his mother, and the first one that I didn't keep. The next day at work, a pipe burst in the basement of a large store. Water was rising rapidly, threatening to damage equipment. The boss was nervous and demanded immediate repairs. Andrei called his mother around 7 in the evening. "Mom, I won't have time today. Let's do it tomorrow morning." She fell silent again for a moment. "Tomorrow is tomorrow. Are you sure you feel okay?" "It's fine. Don't worry." "Then see you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow, son." But tomorrow never came. Early in the morning, Andrei received a call from his mother's neighbor. Valentina Petrovna had become ill during the night. She managed to call an ambulance, but the doctors were too late to help. Heart. Later, Andrei replayed their last conversation in his head many times. If he had arrived on Friday, his mother would have had time to tell him everything. Perhaps they would have talked for half the night. Perhaps she would finally have answered the questions he had long since stopped asking. But the past is not fair. While an event can still be changed, it seems insignificant. But when it's too late to change it, a person suddenly realizes how important every minute was. After the funeral, Andrei did not enter his mother's apartment for almost a week. He found various excuses. Either it was work, or he needed to take Lena, or he was tired, or he simply didn't have time. In fact, he was afraid. Not empty rooms and not memories. He was afraid to see the cup from which his mother had recently drunk tea, her slippers by the bed, her glasses on the table, her coat, which still retained a familiar scent. One day Lena couldn't take it anymore. "You'll have to go there anyway." "I know." "Do you want me to come with you?" Andrei shook his head. "No, one is better." He arrived in the evening. He opened the door with his key and stood in the hallway for a long time without turning on the light. The apartment smelled of apples, medicine, and old furniture. An open newspaper lay on the kitchen table. A cup with a dried tea stain at the bottom stood next to it. A knitted gray scarf hung over the back of a chair. Andre ran his hand across the table and suddenly said out loud, "I'm sorry, Mom." There was no answer, of course. He turned on the light and started cleaning. Chapter 3. Envelope. At first, Andre intended to spend no more than an hour in the apartment, but work helped him not to think, and soon he was clearing out closets, putting clothes in bags, and looking through old documents. Mother didn't throw anything away. One box contained receipts from 10 years ago. Another contained buttons, scraps of fabric, postcards, and several broken watches. Andre even found his daughter Marina's school diary, which she had once left with her grandmother. Around midnight, he reached the large closet in the bedroom. On the top shelf stood an old leather suitcase. Andre remembered it well. His mother had taken him to the seaside with it as a child. The lock had rusted for a long time. I had to pry it out with a screwdriver. Inside were photographs, letters, a few children's things, and a small wooden box. Andre sat down on the floor. He looked at pictures of his mother when she was still young. There she was, standing by the river in a light dress. There she was, laughing in the company of strangers. There she was, holding Andre's hand near an old wooden house. In most of the photographs, there was a man next to her, but it was not Nikolai, whom Andre considered his father all his life. He was pacing around Valentina's shoulders. A friend held little Andre in his arms. They looked like family. On the back of the photograph, the mother wrote, "Summer 1978, the happiest days." Andre felt an unpleasant cold. He opened the box and saw an envelope with his name on it. The paper is turned yellow, but the inscription is well preserved. To Andre. Give it to him when he turns 20. There was a letter inside. Andre unfolded the sheet of paper and immediately recognized his mother's handwriting. "Son, if you're reading this letter, it means I've finally found the strength to tell you the truth. The man you hold responsible for your father's death didn't kill him. Moreover, Nikolai wasn't your biological father. Your real father is alive. His name is Mikhail Sergeyevich Vorontsov." Andre stopped. He reread these lines again, then again. He thought he had misunderstood the meaning, but the words remained unchanged. Nicholas was not his father. My real father's name was Mikhail, and he might still be alive. The mother wrote further. I treated him cruelly, but in those years, I felt there was no other way. If you ever want to know the whole story, find Mikhail in the village of Berezovka. But first, hear him out. Don't repeat my mistake, and don't judge a man without knowing the truth. At the bottom was the date, 1994, and one more short phrase. I'm sorry I made decisions for you for so many years. Andre put the letter on his knees. A car passed by the window. The headlights glided across the ceiling, briefly illuminating an old photograph. Young Mikhail held little Andre in his arms. The boy laughed and hugged him tightly around the neck. It didn't look like a photo of two strangers. Andre took out his phone and checked the time. It was almost 2 a.m. He could have called Lena. He could have woken his daughter. He could have simply left the apartment and decided in the morning that none of it mattered anymore. He was 52 years old. He'd grown up fatherless, started his own family, and lived most of his life. What could a man he hadn't seen for almost half a century change? But Andre continued to look at the photograph, and gradually confusion was replaced by another feeling: resentment. Why did his mother remain silent? Why didn't she give him the letter when he turned 20? Why was she only planning to tell him everything now? And why did she write that Andre considered Mikhail guilty of Nikolai's death if he didn't even remember this man? The questions kept coming, and now only one person could answer them, if he was still alive. Andre took the envelope and the photograph and put them in the inside pocket of his jacket. Before leaving, he looked at the empty apartment again. Just yesterday, it seemed to him that he knew his mother well. Now it turns out that Valentina Petrovna took with her an entire life, about which her son had no idea. In the morning, Andrei had to make a decision. Forget the letter he found, or go to Berezovka and find the man his mother had called his real father. He did not yet know that Mikhail Vorontsov had been waiting for this meeting for more than 40 years. Chapter 4. Conversation with Lena. Andrei returned home around 3 o'clock in the morning. He tried to open the door quietly, but Lena wasn't asleep. She was sitting in the kitchen in her robe, a mug of long cold tea in front of her. "I was about to call you," she said. "Why did it take so long?" "I was sorting things out." "Until 3 o'clock in the morning?" Andrei took off his jacket, hung it on the back of a chair, and sat down opposite his wife. He didn't know where to begin. Dozens of questions swirled around in his head, but he couldn't form a single coherent sentence. "What's wrong?" Lena asked. "Are you feeling unwell?" "No. I found something." He took an envelope out of his pocket and put it on the table. Lena reached out to him, but Andrei covered the letter with his palm. "Wait, I'll tell you myself first." And he told. About an old suitcase, about photographs, about a strange man, about a letter his mother should have given him more than 30 years ago. Lena listened in silence. Only once did she ask again, "So Nikolai wasn't your biological father?" "If you believe the letter, no." "Is this Mikhail alive?" "Don't know." Andrei removed his hand from the envelope. Lena read the letter, then looked at the photograph. "You look really small on it." "About 3 years, probably." "And you don't remember anything?" "Almost nothing." He took the photograph and held it closer to the light. "Sometimes I dreamed of a wooden house. There was a large bench next to it, and sunflowers grew behind the fence. I always thought it was just a dream. But look here." In the photograph, a wooden house was indeed visible behind Mikhail. Tall sunflowers grew near the fence. Lena looked at the photo for a long time. "Maybe you lived there." It turns out that he lived. "So what are you going to do now?" Andrei shrugged. "Don't know." "You know." "How can you know that I know?" "Because we've been together for almost 30 years. If you weren't going to look for this Mikhail, you would have left the letter in the apartment. But you brought it home." Andrei chuckled. Sometimes Lena understood him better than he did. "Let's say I go. What will I say? Hello, perhaps I'm your son?" "First, find out if he's even alive." "And if he's alive?" "Then you'll talk." "In 48 years?" "Better in 48 years than never." Andrei stood up, walked to the window, and pulled back the curtain. The courtyard was empty. The wet asphalt glistened under the street lamp. "For some reason, my mother didn't want me to know him." "The letter says something else." "She hid the letter?" "Yes, because she was afraid, or she doubted, or she was ashamed. We don't know." "That's exactly it. We don't know." Lena came up and stood next to him. "Andrei, you're angry with her now, and you have every right to be. But if you want to know the truth, you'll have to listen to the person who can still tell it." "What if he turns out to be completely different from what I think?" "You don't even know what to think about him yet." That was true. That night, Andrei barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the young man in the old photograph. Sometimes Mikhail's face began to seem familiar. Andrei found similarities in the shape of his chin, the line of his eyebrows, even the way he squinted in the sun. But then he told himself that he just wanted to see it. In the morning, he called work and said that he would take 2 days off at his own expense. After that, I opened my laptop and started looking for Berezovka. It turned out that there are several dozen villages with this name in the country. There was no address in the letter, just a name: Mikhail Sergeyevich Vorontsov. On the back of one photograph, Andrei noticed a barely discernible inscription: Berezovka, Rechnaya Street, summer 1978. That wasn't enough. But in another photograph, near a wooden house, stood a motorcycle. Its license plate still bore the first two letters of the region, so Andrei understood which Berezovka he needed to look for. The village was located almost 400 kilometers from the city. That means about 6 hours by car, Lena said, looking at the route. If the road is normal. When will you go? Andrei looked at her. Today. Chapter 5. Road to the Past. Andrei left around noon. Lena wanted to go with him, but he refused. Not because he didn't need her support. He simply felt he needed to travel this road alone. Autumn arrived early that year. Wet, dark trees lined the highway, and the low sky almost touched the fields. Andrei listened to the radio for the first 2 hours. Then he turned it off. In the silence, thoughts became louder. He remembered his mother. Not the elderly woman he'd been visiting for the past few years, but the young Valentina from the photographs. She was laughing, hugging Mikhail, and looking happy. Andrei hardly remembered her like this. When he was a child, his mother was constantly tired. She worked in a garment factory, picking up extra shifts and returning home late. On weekends, she did laundry, cooked meals for the next few days, and fell asleep in front of the TV. Sometimes little Andrei would wake up at night and see his mother sitting alone in the kitchen. There was a cup in front of her, but she didn't drink. She just looked out the window. One day he asked, "Mom, why aren't you sleeping?" She sat him on her lap, hugged him, and said, "I'm thinking about how to make sure everything goes well for you." At that time, Andrei did not understand these words. Now they were remembered completely differently. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he stopped at a roadside cafe. He ordered soup and tea, but barely touched the food. At the next table sat a man and a boy of about 10, apparently a father and son. The man was showing the boy something on his phone, and the boy was laughing. Then the father ruffled his hair and moved the plate. "Eat first. Then you can watch." The most ordinary scene, but Andrei caught himself watching them for too long. He remembered his own daughter. When Marina was little, Andrei worked a lot. Money was always tight, so he took on any odd jobs he could get. He renovated apartments in the evenings and helped friends build summer houses on weekends. He convinced himself that he was doing it for his family. Only years later did I realize how much I had missed. My daughter's first school concert, several birthdays, a trip to the seaside, which Lena and Marina went to together because he had a lucrative order. He provided for his family and believed that this is what a good father does. Perhaps Nikolai thought the same way. Or maybe Mikhail didn't even know that he had a son. Andrei finished his tea, returned to the car, and looked at the photograph again. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. Mikhail continued to smile in the photo. "At Berezovka, at dusk." The navigator reported 8 kilometers to the village, and then the connection was lost. The asphalt ended. A bumpy road began, with forest on both sides. The rain intensified. On one of the turns, Andrei almost drove past an old sign. The name of the village was almost completely erased, but the word Berezovka was still legible. The first houses appeared after a few minutes. The village turned out to be small. One main street, a store, a private club, and several rows of private homes. 3 women were standing near the store. Andrei stopped next to them and rolled down the window. "Good evening. Could you tell me where Rechnaya Street is?" The women exchanged glances. "What kind of house do you want?" one of them asked. I'm looking for Mikhail Sergeyevich Vorontsov." After these words, the women fell silent. Andrei noticed how the oldest of them changed her expression. "And who are you to him?" The question sounded cautious. "I don't know yet." The woman came closer to the car. "What do you mean you don't know?" Andrei took out a photograph and showed it to her. She looked at the photo for a long time, then turned her gaze to Andrei. "So this is what you are like." "Sorry?" But the woman seemed not to hear him. "Valentine's son?" Andrei felt his hands tense. "Did you know my mother?" "Many people here knew her." "Is Mikhail Sergeyevich alive?" The woman returned the photograph. "Alive. The last house on Rechnaya, near the river. You'll see the blue fence." She was about to leave, but Andrei asked, "Why did you look at me like that?" "Because it looks similar." "On Mikhail?" The woman shook her head. "At your mother, especially with your eyes." She turned away and walked towards the store. "Wait!" Andrei called out to her. "What happened here?" The woman stopped. "You shouldn't be asking me that. Mikhail's been waiting for so many years. Now let him tell you himself." Chapter 6. House by the River. River Street was located on the outskirts. Andrei drove slowly, keeping an eye out for the blue fence. The houses here were spaced far apart. Beyond them, a gentle slope began toward the river. He recognized the last house even before he saw the fence. The wooden walls had darkened with age. The roof had been replaced with new iron. The large old bench was gone, but the window arrangement remained the same as in the photograph. Andrei turned off the engine. He sat in the car for several minutes, not daring to get out. That's all. He traveled 400 kilometers to ask questions to the man who may have been his father. There were no more than 30 meters between them. Andrei suddenly wanted to turn around. What if Mikhail refuses to talk? What if the letter was a mistake? And if this man really was his father, why did he never try to find him? Andrei took the photograph and got out of the car. The gate was unlocked. The light was on in the yard. Near the shed lay neatly stacked firewood, and an old green motorcycle stood under the shed. Andrei went up to the porch and knocked. At first, no one answered. He knocked again, louder. Footsteps were heard in the house. The door opened. An elderly man stood on the threshold. He was tall, though age had noticeably bent his back. His sparse gray hair was combed back. He wore a plaid shirt and a warm vest. For a few seconds, the men looked at each other in silence. Andrei recognized him immediately. Of course, Mikhail had changed a lot in 40 years. His face was covered in deep wrinkles. His shoulders had become narrower. But his eyes were the same. And the chin. The same as Andrei's. The elderly man looked at the car outside the gate, then back at the guest. His lips trembled. "Andrei?" He was taken aback and didn't answer right away. "Do you know me?" Michael nodded slowly. "I know." "Where?" The elderly man lowered his eyes. "I have been imagining what you would become for many years." Andrei wanted to ask 100 questions at once, but the simplest one came out first. "Are you my father?" Mikhail looked up at him. There was no surprise in them, no attempt to evade an answer, only fatigue and some old, almost familiar pain. "Yes," he said. "If Valia finally told you the truth, then yes." Andrei clutched the photograph. "She didn't tell me anything. She died." Mikhail froze, as if he didn't understand. "When?" "A week ago." The elderly man took a step back and grabbed the doorframe with his hand. "Heart?" Yes. He was silent for a few moments. Then he turned away and looked into the depths of the house. So, I didn't have time. What exactly did she have to do? Mikhail turned to Andrei again. Come in. We don't have such conversations on the threshold. The house was warm. It smelled of wood and dried herbs. The furnishings were simple: a wooden table, an old sofa, a bookcase, and a stove. There were photographs hanging on the walls. Andrei came closer and felt everything inside him go cold. He was in several pictures. Here's a school photo from first grade. Here's Andrei in the army. Here he is with Lena on their wedding day. Here's Marina, still a little girl, sitting on his shoulders. Where did you get this? Mikhail closed the door. Valia sent it. Mother? Not every year. Sometimes 5 or 6 years would pass between letters, but she did send photographs. So you knew where I lived all this time? I knew. And you never came? Mikhail sat down at the table with difficulty. She asked not to come. And you obeyed? I gave my word. Andrei felt anger rising. What a convenient word. You can do nothing for 40 years and then say what you promised. Mikhail did not argue. You have the right to think so. I don't want to have rights. I want to understand why adults decided they could dictate my life. Mother hid the letter. You sat here and looked at my photos. Was anyone going to ask me? No, Mikhail answered calmly. No one asked you. And that was our biggest mistake. Andrei turned away. The rain was pouring outside. Somewhere in the next room, a clock was ticking. Mikhail put the kettle on the stove. I can tell you everything from the very beginning, but you won't like the story. I don't like it anymore. Then sit down. Andrei remained standing. First, answer one question. Did Nikolai know I wasn't his son? Mikhail looked at him for a long time. I knew. From the very beginning? From the very beginning. Then why did Mother marry him? Mikhail turned off the boiling kettle. Because I was in prison. Chapter 7. That summer. Andrei finally sat down. Mikhail poured tea into 2 mugs, but neither of them touched it. What were you in prison for? For murder. The word sounded casual. That made it even harder. Andrei stood up slowly. It's clear. Where are you going? Home. I didn't kill that man. Everyone says so. Perhaps, but your mother believed me. Andrei stopped at the door. And the court didn't believe you? The court needed evidence. The evidence pointed to me. How long did you serve? 9 years. They give more for murder. I was released when the real killer confessed. Andrei turned around. Mikhail sat motionless, his hands folded on the table. If you want to leave, go ahead, he said. I won't stop you. But your mother asked you to hear me out. It was probably written in the letter. Yes, that's exactly how it was written. Andrei returned to the table. Tell me. Mikhail was silent for a moment, collecting his thoughts. Valia and I met in the spring of 77. She came to Berezovka to visit her aunt. She planned to stay for a few months and then return to the city. Mikhail chuckled. I saw her near the store. She was standing with a suitcase and arguing with the bus driver. He'd dropped her off at the wrong place and she was demanding a refund. It looks like Mom. It certainly looks like it. I offered to carry the suitcase. She said she could handle it herself. In the end, she carried it for about 200 meters, then put it down on the road and asked how much further it was. I said 3 kilometers. Then she silently handed the suitcase to me. A faint smile appeared on Mikhail's face. For the first time, Andrei saw in him not the mysterious man from the photograph, but an ordinary young guy who had once fallen in love with a stubborn girl. She stayed until autumn, Mikhail continued. Then for the winter. We were planning to get married. I was renovating the house, building a separate room. In the spring, Valia told us she was pregnant. By me? By you. And what happened? The smile disappeared. There was a sawmill in the village at the time. Its director was Victor Lapin, an unpleasant man but influential. He stole timber and sold it through acquaintances. Many suspected this, but kept quiet. And you didn't keep silent? I happened to see trucks leaving at night. I told the local police officer. He turned out to be his man. Mikhail slowly ran his fingers along the rim of the mug. One evening, Lapin and I had a huge fight outside the club, in front of people. I hit him. He promised I'd regret it. And he was killed soon after? 3 days later. Found in the sawmill office, head smashed with an iron crowbar. My fingerprints were on the crowbar. Where? I worked there before our argument. Many people used that tool, but they only remembered me. Several people confirmed that I had threatened Lapin, and the guard said he saw me near the office late one evening. Were you there? No, I was here with Valia, but she couldn't prove it. It was just the two of us. Why didn't the court take her words into account? I took it into account. I just decided that my fiancé was protecting me. Andrei frowned. And the real killer? The sawmill accountant, Semyon Kravtsov. Lapin was going to pin all the scams on him. They had a fight, and Kravtsov hit him with a crowbar. Then he realized it would be easy to shift the blame to me. And remained silent for 9 years? He kept quiet. He confessed when he became seriously ill. He was probably afraid to die with this burden. But when you were arrested, your mother was already expecting a child. Yes. Why didn't she wait? Mikhail looked out the window. At first, I waited. I wrote almost every week. I came to visit. After you were born, I brought you to show you to me. Andrei looked down at the photograph. Now he understood where it had been taken. Probably during one of the brief periods when Mikhail was still under investigation, or when his mother had visited with her young son. Then the letters started coming less frequently. Mikhail continued. Valia was left penniless, with a child to care for. In the village, they looked at her as the wife of a murderer, even though we were never officially married. They wouldn't hire her. People whispered behind her back. And then Nikolai appeared? He was my friend. Andrei raised his head sharply. Your friend? The best. We grew up together. Nikolai helped Valia while I was under investigation. He brought groceries, got medicine for you. And when I was convicted, he asked her to go to the city with him. And get married? Not right away. At first, he just wanted to help. Then he wrote me a letter. What was in the letter? Mikhail stood up and walked over to the old closet. From the bottom drawer, he pulled out a package tied with twine. Inside were several dozen envelopes. I saved everything. He chose one letter and handed it to Andrei. The paper was almost falling apart at the folds. The handwriting was uneven and hasty. Andrei began to read. Nikolai wrote that Valentina had fallen ill, that the child needed food and warm clothes, and that they wouldn't be allowed to live peacefully in Beryozovka. He promised to care for Andrei as if he were his own son. At the end, there was a phrase, if you really love them, let them go. There's nothing you can do to help them here. And you agreed? Andrei asked. Not right away. And then? Then I got a letter from your mother. She wrote that she was tired of waiting and was marrying Nikolai. Mikhail took out another envelope. Here it is. Andrei unfolded the sheet. The letter was short and cold. The mother asked him not to write to her anymore. She said she was planning to start a new life and would never tell Andrei about his real father. At the very end, there was a signature: Valentina. Andrei reread the text several times. Something about him seemed wrong. "Are you sure she wrote this?" "I didn't believe it at first either, but it's her handwriting." Andrei brought the letter closer to the lamp. Yes, the letters were similar to his mother's. However, he remembered the envelope he'd found in the suitcase. There, Valentina wrote that she had treated Mikhail cruelly and saw no other way out. So the letter could have been real. "After liberation, did you try to find us?" "I tried. I came to your city. I met Valia." "When?" "You were 13. Andrei froze. 13 years old. He remembered that age well. He and his mother lived in a small apartment near the train station. Nikolai was no longer alive by then. "Why didn't you meet me?" "Valia didn't allow it." "And did you listen again?" "She said you considered Nikolai a father figure, that his death had a profound effect on you. She was afraid the truth would ruin everything." "Nikolai died when I was 40 years old. I barely remembered him." "She told me something different." "So she lied." "Maybe." Andrei put the letter on the table. "What else did she tell you?" Mikhail hesitated. "That you hate me." "For what?" "For the death of Nicholas." The room became quiet again. "I didn't even know you existed," Andrei said. "Now I understand it." "And then?" "Then I believed her." "How could Mikhail Vorontsov be to blame for the accident if I thought you were a murderer from some village?" "Nikolai died on his way to me." Andrei felt like the room had become smaller. "What did you say?" "Berezovka that day. He wanted to tell me something important, but he didn't make it. His car skidded off the road." Andrei stood up. "Mother said that he was traveling for work." "No, he was coming to me." "For what?" "I don't know. But the day before the accident, Nikolai called and said, 'Misha, we need to talk about Andrei. I've been silent for too long.'" Mikhail looked at the old letters. "Ever since then, I've been trying to understand what exactly he was going to tell me, and why Valentina was so afraid of our meeting." Chapter 8. Letters That Shouldn't Have Been. Andrei looked at Mikhail for a long time, trying to understand whether he believed what he heard. Too many events suddenly became interconnected. Mother, Nikolai, the accident, old letters, a man Andrei had never seen before. "Do you think Nikolai was killed?" he asked. "No," Mikhail replied. "The road was slippery. The car was old. The investigation determined he lost control." "But you said he was going to tell you something important." "He was going to. But that doesn't mean his death wasn't accidental." "What did Mom think?" Michael sighed. "She blamed me." "Why?" "Because if Nikolai hadn't come to me, he would still be alive. Sometimes a person needs to find someone to blame, even if he rationally understands that the accusation is unfair." Andrei went to the window. The rain had almost stopped. The room was reflected in the glass. A table, 2 people, and a whole stack of letters that could change the past. "Mother wrote that I thought you were guilty of Nikolai's death," Andrei said. "But that's not true. I've never heard of you." "So she was deceiving both of us." "For what?" "Don't know." "You always answer that you don't know." "Because it's true. I could come up with a nice explanation, but it wouldn't make you feel any better." Andrei turned around. "Did you save all the letters?" "All that I received." "Can I see it?" Mikhail moved the bundle towards him. The letters were arranged in chronological order. Mikhail marked the date of receipt on each envelope in pencil. The first ones were written before his arrest. Valia talked about simple things, how her day went, what her neighbors said, how she chose fabric for the curtains in the future nursery. These letters were filled with warmth. Then the content changed. After her arrest, Valentina wrote about the investigators, the interrogations, and the people who stopped greeting her. She complained of fatigue, but continued to repeat that she trusted Mikhail. In one letter, Andrei read, "Just hang in there. I know you didn't kill anyone. Our son will know his father is a good man." Andrei lingered on this line. So she really was going to tell me everything. Yes. The next letter arrived 2 months later. It was brief. Valentina announced that a boy had been born and that he had been named Andrei. Inside the envelope was a tiny photograph of a baby. Michael took it carefully. "This was your first photo." Andrei didn't know what to answer. He continued to sort through the letters. At first, they came regularly. Then, there were long gaps between dates. Month, 2, 4. Several of Mikhail's letters were returned with a note that the addressee had left. "Did she move?" Andrei asked. "Nikolai took you to the city." "But you knew his address." "He wrote to me once. After that, he moved too." The last one was a cold letter in which Valentina asked to leave her alone. Andrei compared it with the previous ones. The handwriting did resemble her mother's, but something was different. In her real letters, she almost never put dots over the letter yo, but here they were in every word. Andrei hadn't noticed this before. "Look," Mikhail put on his glasses. "For what? My mother always wrote I instead of yo. Even in my name, she sometimes skipped the dash over the Y when she was in a hurry. And in this letter, everything is written too carefully." Her handwriting. It looks like her handwriting. Mikhail took several other sheets and began to compare. The longer he looked, the more his face changed. "I was sure." Perhaps she didn't write it. Who then? They looked at Nikolai's letter at the same time. Mikhail shook his head. No, Kolya couldn't have done that. A man who married his best friend's woman could. You didn't know Nikolai. Apparently you didn't know him either. Mikhail stood up abruptly. He raised you. Don't forget that. I hardly remember him. But he gave you his last name. He worked, provided for his family, and treated you when you were sick. Kolya wasn't a bad person. Good people do bad things too. Mikhail didn't answer. Andrei looked at the letter again. If Nikolai wrote it instead of his mother, that means she could have continued waiting for you, and you decided she abandoned you. This is just an assumption. Is there a way to check? Mikhail thought about it. Perhaps there is one person. Who? Your mother's aunt, Anna Pavlovna. Valia lived with her after my arrest. Is she still alive? She must be alive. She wasn't much older than us, but I haven't seen her for many years. Where does she live? Here, 2 streets away. Andrei looked at his watch. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening. Let's go to her. Now? I've waited 48 years. I think she can tolerate a late guest. Chapter 9. Anna Pavlovna. Anna Pavlovna's house turned out to be small, with green shutters and a low porch. Mikhail stopped near the gate. I'd rather wait here. Why? We didn't part on very good terms. How much is not too much? The last time she kicked me out of the yard and threatened to smash my head with a log. For what? Because after my release I came looking for Valia. Anna said I'd already ruined her life and should leave her alone. Andrei looked at the dark windows. Maybe she still thinks so. For sure. Then all the more reason to go together. A dog barked in the yard. Almost immediately, the light on the porch came on. The door opened slightly. "Who's there?" "Anna Pavlovna?" Andrei asked. "I need to talk to you." "Come in the morning." She was about to close the door when she saw Mikhail. "Why did you come?" The woman's voice immediately became harsh. "I didn't come to see you," Mikhail replied. "I brought him." Anna Pavlovna turned her gaze to Andrei. She was older than he expected. Small, skinny, with gray hair pulled back into a bun. The woman narrowed her eyes, then raised her hand to her chest. "Andrei?" "Yes." "Oh my God. Valia finally told me?" "I didn't have time. I found the letter after her death." Anna Pavlovna slowly sat down on a chair standing by the door. "Died?" "A week ago." The woman crossed herself. "I didn't know. We haven't spoken for a long time." Andrei noticed how tears appeared in her eyes, but her voice remained firm. "Come in. It's cold outside." They walked into the kitchen. Anna Pavlovna put the teapot on the table and took out 3 cups. Her hands were visibly shaking. "Did they bury him well?" she asked. "Fine." "Were there a lot of people?" "Relatives, neighbors, colleagues. She always drew people to her. Even when she was angry, she still drew them in." Anna wiped her eyes with the edge of her handkerchief. "Why did you stop communicating?" Andrei asked. "Because of old grievances. First I was angry with her. Then she was angry with me. And after that, no one remembered how it all started. Only pride remained." She looked at Mikhail. "Did you tell him everything?" "What I know." "But you don't know everything." Andrei put a cold letter in front of her. "Did my mother write this?" Anna Pavlovna studied the sheet for a long time. Then she shook her head. "No." Mikhail leaned forward. "Are you sure?" "I've seen him before." "Where?" "At Nikolai's." Mikhail turned pale. Anna pushed the letter away as if she didn't want to touch it. "Valia continued to write to you for a long time after your trial, almost a year, but she didn't receive any answers. I answered every letter. She didn't receive anything. This is impossible." Nikolai was picking up the mail from the village back then. He worked as a driver and drove to the area several times a week. He offered to deliver the envelopes to Valia so she wouldn't have to walk with the child. Andrei felt the picture begin to come together. Did he take her letters? I don't know if it was all of them or just some, but one day I saw him burning them behind the barn. I asked him what he was doing. Nikolai said they were old papers. And you believed it? At that moment, yes. Anna looked at Mikhail. After a few months, Valia stopped receiving your replies. She thought you'd abandoned her. By then, the child was often sick and there was no money. Nikolai helped. He brought groceries and medicine. He was there every day, but for her, you became a person who no longer answered. Mikhail clenched his fists. I wrote. Now I know. Why didn't you tell her about the burned letters? Because I didn't understand what kind of letters they were, and when I did, it was too late. When did you realize it? Andrei asked. Anna Pavlovna looked at him. On the day of Nicholas's death. Chapter 10. The day of the accident. The kettle was quietly boiling in the kitchen, but no one paid attention to it. What happened that day? Andrei asked. Anna turned off the stove. Nikolai came to see me this morning. He wasn't himself. He asked if I still had Valia's old letters. Which ones exactly? The ones she wrote to Mikhail. Sometimes she'd leave drafts with me. Valia liked to write a letter in a notebook first and then rewrite it cleanly. Anna opened the drawer of the old chest of drawers and took out a tattered notebook. This? Mikhail recognized the cover. I saw her at Valia's. After she left, the notebook remained here. I forgot about it for many years. She handed it to Andre. The first pages contained household notes, food prices, a list of children's things, recipes. Then the letters began. "Hello, Misha." Andre flipped through page after page. Mikhail's mother wrote to him about her son, about how he took his first step, how he got sick in the winter, how she once called Nikolai Daddy because she'd heard that word from the neighbor's children. In one of the drafts, Valentina asked, "Why did you stop answering? If you don't want to know us anymore, just tell me. Don't make me wait every day." The next letter was even more painful. "Nikolai says you've started a new life and asked not to be disturbed anymore. I don't believe him. Write at least 2 words." Mikhail covered his face with his hands. "I didn't say anything like that." She didn't know who to believe, Anna said. Then Nikolai brought her a letter. "That same one?" Andre pointed to the sheet of paper lying on the table. "No, something else, supposedly from Mikhail." "What was in it?" "That he doesn't want to see her or the child. That after his release he'll leave and start all over again." Michael raised his head. "I have never written anything like that." "Now it's clear. Where's the letter?" Valia tore it up and threw it into the oven. Andre slowly flipped through the notebook further. So Nikolai was deceiving them both. He showed his mother fake letters from Mikhail. He sent Mikhail a letter in his mother's name. "Yes," Anna answered. "And then he married her." "Yes." "And no one noticed anything?" Anna looked at Andre tiredly. "Now it all seems obvious. But back then, everyone only saw a small part of it. Mikhail was sitting hundreds of kilometers away. Valia was alone with a child. I was taking care of my family. Nikolai helped and seemed like the only person you could trust." "Why did he decide to confess years later?" "Because my conscience has finally awakened." Anna was silent. Not long before the accident, Nikolai was unpacking his things and found one of Mikhail's letters. He must have hidden it at some point and then forgotten it. In that letter, Mikhail wrote that he had secured a review of the case. A new witness had emerged, and the hope of his release became real. Mikhail nodded. "I was released 2 months after sending that letter." Nikolai realized that if Valia had received it, she would have waited for you. "But they were already married by then?" Andre asked. "Yes. And you called Nikolai Dad." "What did he do with the letter he found?" "I showed it to Valia." Andre closed the notebook. "And he confessed to everything?" "Not right away. At first he said the letter had gotten lost by accident, but Valia saw the date and realized he was lying. They had a fight. Then Nikolai told her about the other letters." "About fakes too?" "Yes." "Mom kicked him out?" "Nikolai left himself. He said he had to talk to Mikhail and fix everything." Anna looked at him. A few hours later, they reported the accident. Mikhail sat motionless. "So he wanted to confess." "I wanted to." "Why didn't Valia come to me later?" "After Nikolai's death, she broke down. She blamed him. She blamed you. She blamed herself. But most of all, she was afraid that Andre would find out the truth and hate all 3 of them." "So you decided to continue lying?" Andre asked. "She said the child needed a father she could respect. Nikolai acted terribly, but he loved you and raised you as his own for several years. Valia didn't want to take away his memory from you." "What memory? I was 4 years old." "You remembered him," Anna countered. "After the funeral, every night he asked when Dad would come back." Andre fell silent. He actually remembered someone's voice, strong arms lifting him off the ground, the smell of gasoline and tobacco, a man's laughter. Previously, it seemed to him that these memories were made up. "What about Mikhail?" Andrei asked. "Why didn't she tell him after she was released?" Anna looked at Mikhail. "Because you arrived too quickly." "What does it mean?" "Valia learned you'd been released a few days after Nikolai's death. She hadn't recovered yet. She was afraid you'd take Andrei." "I never intended to take my son away." "You were angry. You said you'd go to court." Mikhail lowered his eyes. Said. "So she got scared. She left, changed her address. And when you found her a few years later, she'd already built a whole wall around that lie. To destroy it would mean admitting all those years had been wasted." Andrei rose from the table. "It was worth it. My childhood was spent there." "I know," Anna said quietly. "No, you don't know. You were all deciding something. Nikolai was deciding which letters should get through. Mother was deciding which father I should remember. Mikhail was deciding not to break his promise. And now I'm 52, and I'm supposed to calmly accept that my entire family lied to me for my own good? Nobody is asking you to take this calmly. What do you want from me?" Anna Pavlovna looked him straight in the eyes. "So that you don't waste the rest of your life making the same mistake." "Which one?" "To be offended." Chapter 11. Night in an Old House. They returned to Mikhail's house closer to midnight. The rain had stopped, but a chill blew in from the river. Andrei stopped next to the car. "I'll go." "Where to?" asked Mikhail. "Home." "You're tired. It's 6 hours to the city, and the road is bad at night." "I'll find a hotel." "The closest one in the area is about 40 kilometers away. Stay here. There's a free bed in the room." Andrei didn't want to accept his help, but he wanted to travel even less along an unfamiliar road. Just until the morning. "As you say." Mikhail made a bed for him in a small room. There was a map hanging on the wall, old books in the cupboard, and a wooden model of an airplane lying on the windowsill. Andrei took it in his hands. "Did you do it?" "A long time ago. For you." "For me?" "When I was in prison, they let me work in the workshop. I thought one day I'd get out and give it to you." Andrei put the plane back. "Why didn't you throw it away?" "I couldn't." Mikhail lingered at the door. "Do you need anything?" "No." "Then good night." He had already left when Andrei asked, "Did you have a family?" Mikhail stopped. "I had a wife, Olga. We lived together for 21 years. Where is she?" "She died 5 years ago." "Children?" "No." "It didn't work?" Mikhail looked at him. "I didn't mean to." "Why?" "I always thought I had to deal with the past first. But then it was too late." He closed the door. Andrei lay down, but sleep did not come. Snippets of conversations echoed in my head. "I've been imagining what you would become for years. She asked me not to come. Nikolai took the letters, so that you don't waste the rest of your life on resentment." The easiest thing to do was to assign blame. Nikolai deceived his friend, stole letters, and effectively took over someone else's family. But even he eventually tried to make amends. The mother continued to lie, even though she could have told the truth. But she was left alone with a small child, buried her husband, and lived in fear of losing her son. Mikhail agreed to back down, perhaps because he loved her, perhaps because he was afraid of being rejected again. Each of them could have acted differently, but no one entered. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, Andrei heard footsteps in the yard. He looked out the window. Mikhail sat on an old bench near the house. Despite the cold, he was jacketless. He held a photograph of a young Valentina in his hands. Andre stood by the window for a while, then put on a sweater and went out. Mikhail quickly put the photograph in his pocket. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "You too. At my age, this is a common thing." Andre sat down next to me. They were silent for a few minutes. The river roared in the darkness, and somewhere on the other bank, a dog barked. "Did you love her?" Andre asked. "All my life." "Even after that letter?" Love doesn't just turn off on command. You can get offended. You can leave. You can go years without seeing someone. But the feeling still remains somewhere inside. "Did your wife know?" "I knew there was another woman before her. I didn't tell her the details." "It's not fair to her." "It's not fair. You often admit that you did wrong. At my age, the list of mistakes becomes longer than the list of achievements." Andre looked at the dark river. "Have you been following my life?" "I didn't follow. Sometimes your mother sent photos. A few times I came to town and watched from afar." "When?" "For your wedding." Andre turned to him. "Have you been there?" "I was standing near the registry office. I saw you come out. Valia noticed me but didn't say anything." "I could have met you 30 years ago." "I could." "Why didn't you come over?" "Got scared." The answer sounded so simple that Andre couldn't find what to say. "When else did you come?" "When Marina was born. Then for your grandmother's funeral. The last time was about 15 years ago." "And all this time you just watched?" "Yes." "I don't understand." "I don't always understand myself either. The longer you put off an important conversation, the more terrifying it becomes. At first you think, I'll talk in a month. Then, when the opportunity arises. And then one day you realize that 20 years have passed. Andre remembered how many times he'd wanted to have a serious talk with his own daughter, to ask why she rarely visited, to apologize for the years when work was more important to him than family. But each time the conversation was postponed, first for the weekend, then for the holidays, then until the mood strikes. "Does Marina know?" Mikhail asked. "Not yet." "And Lena?" I told her. "You have a good one." "How do you know?" "From photographs. A person's face becomes calmer when they're around a good person." Andre chuckled. "Did you draw this conclusion from the photographs?" "And I had nothing else to judge by." Michael stood up. "Let's go inside. You'll freeze." "Wait." Andre took out of his pocket a photograph that he had found in his mother's suitcase. "Where was it made?" Mikhail looked at the photo. "Here, in the yard. You were almost 3 years old." "But you were in prison." "No. This photo was taken after my release." Andre frowned. "You said that after your release, my mother did not allow you to meet with me." "At first, she allowed it. We spent 3 days together." "Why don't I remember this?" "You were little." "And then what happened?" Mikhail slowly sank back onto the bench. "Then you disappeared." "In what sense?" "Valia took you and left without telling anyone where she was. It was after those 3 days that she started hiding from me." "Why?" Mikhail looked at the photograph. "Because one morning you called me Daddy, and that evening you told Mother you wanted to stay with me. After that, Valia decided she was losing her son. The next day, you were gone." Andre looked at the house, the bench, and the dark silhouette of the fence. Somewhere deep inside, an old memory stirred. The sun, tall sunflowers, a wooden airplane, a man carrying it on his shoulders to the river, and also a crying mother, hastily putting clothes into a suitcase. "I remember this house," Andre said quietly. Mikhail turned to him. "What exactly?" I remember how you promised to teach me to swim." The elderly man closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, Andre saw tears on his face. "You were always afraid to go deep," said Mikhail. "You'd cling to my neck and scream that there was a huge fish living in the river." They both laughed, quiet and a little awkward. It was the first time they laughed together. Chapter 12. A morning that hadn't happened in 40 years. Andre woke up to the smell of fried potatoes. For a few seconds he didn't realize where he was. An unfamiliar ceiling, an old closet, a wooden airplane on the windowsill. Then I remembered everything at once. Letter, road, Mikhail, conversation with Anna Pavlovna. He looked at his watch. It was almost 9 in the morning. In the kitchen, Mikhail stood by the stove. Bread, cheese, and boiled eggs were already on the table. "Good morning," he said. "Would you like some tea?" "Will." "Strong?" "Average." Mikhail nodded. "So, like Valia." She drank very strong alcohol. "Not when I was young. When I was young, I'd pour half a cup of tea leaves and then dilute it with water until evening." Andre sat down at the table. Mikhail placed a plate of potatoes in front of him. "I can't eat that much. I thought the same when I was your age. At my age, people already watch what they eat. Now make sure nothing is left on the plate." Andre smiled involuntarily. The phrase was simple, almost homely. It was the kind a father might say to his grown son visiting. Only they hadn't had such breakfasts, conversations, or family habits for decades. They had to start from scratch. "What are you going to do next?" asked Mikhail. "I'll go back home." "That's clear." "I want to look through Mom's things again. Maybe I'll find other letters." "And then?" Andre shrugged. "I don't know yet." Mikhail did not insist. After breakfast, they went out into the courtyard. In the morning light, the house looked less mysterious, an ordinary old building, long in need of repair. Mikhail showed him the place where sunflowers once grew, the old barn where Valentina dried laundry, the descent to the river. There was an overturned wooden boat lying on the shore. "Do you fish?" Andre asked. "Often before, now less often. My back doesn't allow me to sit for long." "Is there a motor?" "What motor?" "You could throw a stone from here to the other side." "You can throw a stone, but who will row the boat against the current?" "There is still strength." Mikhail tried to turn the boat over, but immediately winced. "Here is your strength," Andre said. "Stop." Together they turned her over and pushed her into the water. "Do you really have to go?" Mikhail asked. Andre looked at his watch. It was a long way to the city. Lena was probably expecting a call. But for some reason, she didn't want to leave right now. "I have an hour." Mikhail didn't say anything. He just brought 2 oars from the barn. They sailed away from the shore. The river was calm. A light mist rose from the rain. Mikhail sat in the stern, and Andre rowed. "The left one is stronger," said Mikhail. "I know. If I had known, we wouldn't have been turned away." "Then row it yourself." "I could. I'm just giving you a chance to learn." "I am 52 years old." "And you row like a 12-year-old." After a few minutes, Andre found the right rhythm. The boat began to move more smoothly. Mikhail nodded contentedly. "There, that's better." They reached almost the middle of the river. "Is it deep here?" Andre asked. "About 4 meters." "Is the huge fish still alive?" Michael laughed. "She's grown up. Now she swallows boats whole." Andre smiled too. This short trip didn't fix anything. It didn't bring back lost years or undo past mistakes. And yet there was something important about her. Perhaps this is exactly the kind of morning they didn't have 40 years ago. Now it has finally happened. When they returned, Mikhail took a small paper bag out of the house. "Take it." "What's there?" "You'll see later." "Letters again?" "Not really." Andrei opened the package. Inside was a watch with a worn leather strap. "They don't work." "They can be fixed. I bought them when I found out I had a son. I wanted to give them to you someday for your coming of age." 32 years too late. Better late than never. Andrei closed the package. "Thank you." The word didn't come easily to him, but Mikhail heard it. Before leaving, they stood near the gate, not knowing how to say goodbye. The handshake seemed too formal, the hug too personal. Finally, Michael extended his hand. Andrei shook it. "I'll call," he said. "Fine. Just write down the number. Otherwise, you'll have to wait another 40 years. Mikhail grinned and dictated the number. Andrei got into the car. With the engine already started, he rolled down the window. "Mikhail Sergeyevich!" "Yes?" "Take the boat under the awning. It's going to rain again." "I know it myself." "Then why did she stay by the water?" "Because you distract me." Andrei shook his head and moved away. In the mirror, he saw Mikhail standing near the blue fence. Then the road turned, and the house disappeared. Chapter 13. Daughter. The way back seemed shorter. Andrei stopped twice to talk to Lena. He told her almost everything, except for the 3 days he spent with Mikhail as a child. For some reason, I wanted to say this when we met. He arrived home late in the evening. There was my daughter's car parked in the yard. Marina was sitting in the kitchen with Lena. Cups and an open box of chocolates lay in front of them. Their conversation stopped as soon as Andrei entered. "Here comes the traveler," said Marina. She was 29 years old. She had inherited her mother's blonde hair and Andrei's habit of frowning when she was nervous. "Hello. Where is Anton?" "With your father. I came to see if everything was okay with you." "What should happen to me?" "Mom said you found some relative and went to him on the other side of the region." Andrei looked at Lena. "I didn't say who exactly," she explained immediately. Marina crossed her arms. "Well then, tell me." "Maybe tomorrow?" "No way. I drove for 2 hours." Andrei took off his jacket and sat down at the table. He told the story again. This time it was shorter, without details, but it still took almost half an hour. Marina listened with interest at first, then her face turned serious. "So, I have another grandfather?" "It turns out that yes." "And he is alive?" "Alive." "And did Grandma hide all this?" "Yes." "For what?" "I was afraid." "What?" "Everything. That he'll take me away. That I'll find out what Nikolai did. That I'll judge her." "And you condemn?" Andrei did not answer right away. "I don't know yet." Marina noticed a paper bag. "What's there?" "A watch. Mikhail bought it after I was born." She took out her watch and turned it over in her hands. "Beautiful." "They don't work." "It can be fixed." He said the same thing. Marina put them on the table. "I want to meet him." Andrei frowned. "No need to rush." "You met him?" "That's different." "Why?" "Because he is my father." "And my grandfather." "Marina, I still haven't understood anything myself." "So understand. What does this have to do with me?" "Given that there is no need to involve the whole family in this." She looked at her father with surprise. "Are you serious right now?" "Absolutely. Your grandmother spent your entire life deciding for you whether you had the right to know your father. And now you're going to decide for me whether I have the right to know my grandfather?" The words hit the mark. Lena stood up silently, picked up the kettle and walked over to the stove. She always did this when she realized her husband and daughter needed to talk without her. "I just want to protect you," Andre said. "From what?" "Out of disappointment." "Dad, I'm 29 years old. I have a mortgage, a child, and an ex-husband who considers alimony a personal insult. I think I'm no stranger to disappointment." Lena couldn't help but smile. Andre shook his head. "You don't know him." "You don't know either." "That's exactly it." "But do you want to know?" He thought about it. "Maybe." "Then why can't I?" Andre looked at his daughter. Now he suddenly saw especially clearly how easy it was to repeat someone else's mistake. It is enough to convince yourself that you are acting for the sake of a loved one. "Okay," he said. "Just not now. Give me some time." Marina nodded. "How much is a little?" "At least a week." "Okay, we'll go and meet in a week." "I didn't say we were going." "And I said." She stood up and hugged her father. "How are you?" "Fine." "You're lying." "I learned from my elders." Marina pulled away. "Don't be angry with Grandma for too long." "Why?" "Because she won't be able to explain herself anymore." "That's exactly why I'm angry." The daughter patted him on the shoulder. "Then find everything she left behind. Sometimes people say the most important things unspoken." After she left, Andre took out his watch and looked at the dial for a long time. The hands stopped at 10 to 6. He took the watch to a workshop near the house. "Can you fix it?" Andre asked the elderly repairman. He opened the lid. "The mechanism is fine, it's just completely dried out. We'll clean it and lubricate it, and it'll work." They've been standing there for a long time. The watch doesn't know how long it's been standing. Time will start again for it when you wind it up again. This phrase remained in Andre's memory for a long time. Chapter 14. Cassette. The next day, Andre came to his mother's apartment again. Now he searched purposefully. I looked through every shelf, every drawer. I sorted through old documents, books, and boxes of photographs. Nothing. No letters from Mikhail, no confession, no explanation. Andre arrived around 7 in the evening. She brought food and a pair of rubber gloves. "One person can't handle it anyway," she said. They started to dismantle the room together. Lena folded clothes, Andre looked through papers. An hour later, she opened the bottom drawer of the old sideboard. "There are tapes here." "Let's throw it away." "Wait, there's something written on them." These were ordinary audio cassettes. Most of them still had captions. Concerts, radio plays, old songs. One lay separately, wrapped in a scarf. The sticker read, "To Andre, if I can't tell you myself." His hands began to tremble. "Do we have anything to listen to?" Lena asked. The tape recorder was in the kitchen. The old cassette recorder was in the top cabinet. Andre plugged it in, but it didn't work. "We'll take it to the repairman tomorrow," Lena said. "No, I'll find another one now." "Where will you find a cassette recorder at night?" Andre was already dialing the number. 40 minutes later, his school friend Sergei arrived. He brought an old radio he'd been keeping in the garage. "I keep wanting to throw it away, but I can't bring myself to do it," he explained. "Now it's useful." Sergei helped clean the head and check the sound. Then he got ready to leave. "Maybe you'll stay?" Andre asked. "It's a family thing." He shook his friend's hand and quietly added, "If you need to talk, call even at night." When the door closed, Andre inserted the cassette. At first there was a rustling sound, then a click, and the mother's voice, weak, tired, but completely recognizable. "Andrusha, if you're listening to this, It means I couldn't tell you everything to your face again." Andrei closed his eyes. For a few seconds it seemed to him that his mother was sitting next to him. "I've started this conversation many times. At first I wanted to tell you when you turned 16. Then I decided to wait until you were 20. I wrote a letter, but hid it. Then I thought about telling you before your wedding, but then I saw how happy you were, and I got scared again." In the recording, she sighed heavily. "Fear can actually disguise itself as concern. A person tells themselves they're keeping silent for the sake of others, but in reality they're keeping silent because they're afraid of the consequences." Andrei looked at Lena. She held his hand. "Nikolai wasn't your biological father," your mother continued. "But he loved you. I never doubted that. He did something terrible. He hid Mikhail and my letters, deceived us. I should have hated him. And for a while, I did. But after his death, the memory remained of him carrying you to the doctor in the winter, of sitting by your bed when you had a fever, of teaching you to ride a bike." There was a pause in the recording. A person isn't only good or only bad. Sometimes they're capable of loving and causing terrible pain at the same time. It took me my whole life to understand that. Andrei felt a heavy lump appear in his throat. "I loved Mikhail too. I probably still do. I treated him unfairly. After you were released, he wanted to take you to Beryozovka. I was afraid you'd choose him and no longer need me. So that night I packed my things and left." The mother's voice trembled. "I told myself I was protecting my son. But the truth is, I was protecting myself." Lena squeezed Andrei's hand tighter. "Then Mikhail found us. I lied that you blamed him for Nikolai's death. I lied that you didn't want to see him. Mikhail believed me because he felt guilty. And I got what I wanted. He left." The cassette hissed quietly. "Years passed. I watched you grow up without a father. I saw the way you looked at the other boys your dads would pick up after school. Every time, I was about to confess. But the longer I stayed silent, the harder it became to speak." Andrei lowered his head. A schoolyard came into my mind. He stands at the gate, waiting for his mother. All around him, boys run to their fathers, get into cars, and brag about fishing and trips. But Andrei convinces himself that he doesn't need anyone. "I sent Mikhail photos of you," Valentina said. "It was cruel. I didn't let him be near you, but I didn't let him forget you either. Perhaps I was trying to punish both him and myself." Tears could be heard in the mother's voice. "If you can, forgive me both. But I have no right to demand forgiveness." The recording was interrupted again. Andrei thought that was the end. But after a few seconds, his mother continued. "There's something else you don't know. 5 years ago, Mikhail came to see me. He was sick. The doctors found a tumor." Andrei raised his head sharply. "He asked me not to tell you anything until he decided. I again agreed to keep the secret. Apparently, neither of us has learned anything." Lena looked at her husband. "At our last meeting, Mikhail said he might not have much time left. He wanted to see you at least once. I promised to talk to you. That's why I called that evening." The mother cried in the recording. "You said you'd come tomorrow. I said I'd wait. Forgive me, son. I waited too long for the right moment, and only just before the very end did I realize there is no right moment. There is only today." There was a movement, as if she were reaching out to turn off the recording. But just before the click, Valentina added, "Don't repeat my life, Andrei. Call him today." The tape stopped. The room became quiet. Andrei sat motionless. Then he took out his phone and dialed Mikhail's number. He didn't answer right away. "Yes? Why didn't you say you were sick?" There was silence on the other end. "You found the recording," Mikhail finally said. Answer the question. Because you didn't come to see a sick old man. You came for the truth. I didn't want pity to influence your decision. What decision? Do you need me? Andre stood up and walked to the window. What did the doctors say? Everything is calm now. That's not an answer. I had surgery, then treatment. The last examination was good. When is the next one? In 2 weeks. Where? Mikhail named the regional hospital. I'll go with you. No need. I'm not asking whether it's necessary or not. A quiet laugh was heard on the other end. You talk like Valia, and the stubbornness probably comes from you. Maybe. And one more thing. We'll be there in a week. Who are we? Me, Lena, and Marina. Possibly a grandson. Mikhail fell silent again. You are sure? No, but we'll still come. After the conversation, Andre put the phone away and looked at his mother in the old photograph. I called, he said quietly. This time I didn't wait until tomorrow. Chapter 15. The clock started ticking again. A week later, 2 cars stopped at Mikhail's house. Marina was the first to leave, followed by 10-year-old Anton, who kept asking why they were going to see a man no one had ever spoken about before. Because adults sometimes make things too complicated, his mother answered. Is he really my great-grandfather? Exactly. Then why don't I know him? You'll find out now. Mikhail stood on the porch in a clean shirt. It was obvious he was very nervous. Seeing Marina, he froze. Hello, she said. I'm Marina. I know, she smiled. Of course, you have photos. Mikhail was embarrassed. Only the old ones. Now there will be new ones. She came up and hugged him. It was as simple as if they hadn't seen each other for the first time. Mikhail was at first confused, then carefully placed his hands on her shoulders. You look like your mother, he said to Andre. Everyone says so. Anton kept his distance. Mikhail leaned towards him. What's your name? Anton. Do you know how to fish? No. Have you been on a boat? Once, in Turkey. That doesn't count. The boy became interested. Why? Because a real boat should leak a little. Is yours leaking? Just a little bit. Mom won't allow it. We won't take Mom with us. Marina laughed. I hear everything. Half an hour later, Anton was already helping Mikhail get the fishing rods out of the shed. Lena was setting the table, Marina was taking pictures of the house, and Andre was standing near the blue fence and looking at them. There was a strange feeling inside. Not happiness in the usual sense. There was too much pain behind this encounter. But alongside the pain, something new gradually emerged. Finally been opened in a room that had remained locked for decades. Mikhail approached Andre. Thank you for coming. It's hard to stop Marina. And you? Me too. Andre took a watch out of his pocket. Now they were working. Did you fix it? It turned out to be a good mechanism. He put them on his hand. Mikhail listened to the quiet ticking. Are they really coming? They're 2 minutes late. So they are in a hurry to make up for lost time. At that moment, Anton shouted from the yard, Grandpa Misha, where can I get worms? Mikhail froze. It was probably the first time in many years that someone called him grandfather. I'll show you now, he responded. He took a few steps, then turned to Andre. Will you come with us? Fishing? To dig for worms. Very tempting. A big fish won't catch itself. Andre looked at his watch. There was still plenty of time before lunch. "Okay," he said, "but let's check the boat first. I don't want to sail on one that's just a little leaky." They went to the barn. Anton ran ahead, followed by Mikhail. Andrei watched their similar gait and wondered how much more unknown might still lie within this one family. Sometimes it seems to us that the past is already over and nothing can be changed in it. That's probably true. You can't return letters that never reached their destination. You can't undo words spoken out of fear. You can't become a little boy again and live out your childhood with your father. But you can stop giving today to the past. You can make the call you've been putting off for too long. You can listen to a person until the end. You can wind an old watch and find that the mechanism still works. Andrei didn't know how much time they had left. None of us know. But now he understood the main thing. If there was a person nearby to whom he needed to say important words, he shouldn't wait for the right moment. There may never be a better time than today. Chapter 16. Examination. 2 weeks later, Andrei went to Berezovka again. This time he left before dawn to pick up Mikhail by 8 in the morning and get to the regional hospital in time. When Andrei pulled up to the house, Mikhail was already waiting by the gate. He was wearing an old jacket and carrying a small bag. "Did you spend the night on the street?" Andrei asked. "Just came out. I arrived 10 minutes early, so I left 11 minutes early." Mikhail got into the car and immediately buckled up. "Did you take the documents?" "I took it." "Results of previous examinations?" "In the bag." "Medicines?" "Andrei, I'm not a child. I'm just asking. The 5th time." The first half hour was spent in silence. At dawn, the road was bathed in a soft golden light. Fog lay along the edges of the fields. "Are you worried?" Andrei asked. "There is a little." "Why didn't you tell me right away?" "What would change?" "I would know." "That's exactly why I didn't tell you. You just showed up. I didn't want to greet my son with, 'Hello, I'm your father, now take me to the doctor.'" "You could have inserted at least a couple of sentences between this." Mikhail chuckled. "Are you always like this?" "Which?" "Grumpy." "Only with close people." The words came out by themselves. Andrei immediately understood this, but did not try to correct it. Mikhail turned to the window. It was hard to tell from his face what he was feeling, but the corners of his lips lifted slightly. The hospital turned out to be crowded. They took their place in line outside the office. An elderly woman and her daughter sat across from them. Next to them, a young man was scrolling through his phone, and his mother adjusted his collar every few minutes. Andrei looked at Mikhail. "Is your shirt buttoned properly?" "Don't even start. I just decided to show my concern too. Show it silently." When Mikhail was called, Andrei stood up with him. "I myself." "Okay, I'll be here." The door closed. At first, Andrei sat quietly in the hallway. After 10 minutes, he started checking his watch. After 20, he stood up and walked to the window. After half an hour, he was sure the conversation had dragged on for a reason. Finally, the door opened. Mikhail came out holding papers in his hands. "What did they say?" "Let's get out of here." "What did they say?" "I'll tell you in the car." Andrei didn't like this answer. They went down to the first floor and went outside. Mikhail sat down on a bench near the hospital. "The doctors found a small mass," he said. "It's not clear yet what it is. Further examination is needed." "Which?" "Biopsy and a few other procedures." "When?" "In 3 days." "Then you will stay here." "Why? I'll come back later." "To drive 400 kilometers again?" "Not 400. It's 120 from me to the hospital." "Doesn't matter." "Andrei, don't command. I'm not giving orders. I'm suggesting you stay with us. Mikhail looked at him. At your place? We have a spare room. And what will Lena say? She suggested it herself. Did you discuss this? Certainly. Mikhail frowned. Without me? Did you want us to organize a family meeting? I don't like being indebted to anyone. And I don't like to follow you to Beryozovka every time. Don't go. I'll go. You are stubborn. We've already found that out. Mikhail looked at the hospital building, then at the documents. For a few days? For starters. And if everything is okay, go straight home. Agreed. Andrei took the bag from him. I'll carry it myself. I see you carrying it. What's wrong? Your hand is shaking. From the cold. The day was warm, but Andrei didn't argue. Mikhail sat silently in the car, watching the passing houses as if trying to memorize the route. Everything would be fine, Andrei said. Don't say that. Why? Because you don't know. What can I say? Mikhail thought for a moment. Tell them we'll figure it out when we get the results. Okay, we'll figure it out. This looks more like the truth. Chapter 17. The Guest. Lena greeted them calmly, as if Mikhail had been in the house many times before. Come in, she said. Slippers are by the door, a towel is in the bathroom, I've made the bed. There was no need to worry. If you repeat this every time, I will start charging for accommodation. Mikhail smiled. Then I won't do it anymore. At first, at dinner, we talked only about simple things. The road, the weather, prices, and work. Then Mikhail noticed an old photograph of Marina on the wall. How old is she here? 7, Lena answered. Andrei was already almost gray then? I'm not gray. It's just the way the light falls. Of course, said Lena. The light has been falling incorrectly for the last 20 years. Michael laughed. Andrei looked at them and felt a little strange. His wife and father, who had only entered their lives a few weeks earlier, were sitting at the same table and making fun of him, as if it had always been this way. After dinner, Lena went into the room, and the men remained in the kitchen. You have a nice house, said Mikhail. Ordinary. I'm not talking about the walls. Andrei understood what he meant. Lucky. It's not just luck. A family doesn't just stick together. We almost got divorced several times. But they didn't get divorced. It's Lena's merit. She says the same thing about you. When did she have time? While you were going to the store. Andrei shook his head. We've already agreed. Over the following days, they gradually got used to each other. In the morning, Mikhail woke up before everyone else and tried to make breakfast. Lena forbade him from taking charge of the kitchen. He disobeyed. Andrei drove him for checkups after work. On the way, they argued about cars, fishing, and repairs. One day, Andrei returned home and saw that Mikhail had taken apart the old wardrobe in the hallway. What's happening? The hinges are sagging. I was going to fix it. When? On the weekend. On what, in 5 years? I am a master myself. That's why nothing gets fixed at your place. The cobbler's children have no shoes. After 2 hours, the cabinet was adjusted, and the doors no longer creaked. The next day, Mikhail repaired the kitchen chair. Then I replaced the switch in the hallway. Lena said, It looks like I've finally found someone who will complete the renovation. You already have one like that, Andrei said indignantly. A second one has been found. Form a family team. Marina and Anton arrived on Saturday. The boy immediately dragged Mikhail to show him the broken fishing rod. Marina helped Lena set the table. Andrei watched them from the room. Unusual? The daughter asked. What, exactly? That the family has become larger. A little. I like it. You always make people feel welcome. No, it's just that he's been part of our family all this time. We just didn't know it. Andrei sat down on the sofa. I sometimes think about Nikolai. About the one you considered your father? Yes. Everything he did, I should hate him. Why should I? Because he stole Mikhail and me our whole life. Marina sat down next to me. You yourself said that you hardly remember Nikolai. Sometimes I remember. How he put me on a bike. How he brought me a wooden horse. For many years I thought my mother bought that toy. But now I remember. He brought it. So there was more to him than just bad. That's what angers me the most. It would be easier if he turned out to be a monster. People are rarely monsters all the time. Your grandmother said almost the same thing on the tape. I guess I look like her. It looks similar. Marina took her father's hand. You don't have to choose one. You can love the memory of Nicholas and get to know Mikhail. One doesn't cancel the other out. How come you are so smart? Just like her mother. I didn't even doubt it. Anton's voice came from the kitchen. Grandpa Misha, Dad says fish can smell a person on a worm. Is that true? Your dad says a lot of things. You don't have to listen to half of them. I hear everything, Marina shouted. The house became noisy, and Andrei suddenly thought that this was exactly the noise he had been missing before. Results. On Monday, they called from the hospital. The doctor asked me to come the next day. Andrei barely slept that night. Mikhail also paced the room for a long time, although he claimed to have rested well in the morning. They entered the office together. The doctor laid out the papers and read something for a few seconds. The biopsy results are good, he finally said. There are no signs of malignancy. Andrei felt the tension of the last few days immediately release. So it's not cancer? Mikhail asked. No, but we'll continue monitoring. A follow-up examination will be in 6 months. We'll arrive in 6 months, Andrei said. Mikhail looked at him. I can answer it myself. Answer. We'll come, Mikhail repeated. When they left the hospital, Andrei suggested celebrating the news in a cafe. What's there to celebrate? Mikhail grumbled. The fact that I've been diagnosed with yet another old man's disease? That she is not dangerous? Then it is possible. They ordered meat, salad, and a cup of coffee. I'll pay, said Mikhail. Don't even start. You drove me around for several days. I'll at least pay for lunch. Next time. Will there be a next one? Andrei looked up. Mikhail said this as if in passing, but something else was hidden behind the simple question. It will be, Andrei answered. We'll go to Mom's on Sunday. To Valia? At the cemetery. Mikhail was silent for a long time. I don't know if it's worth it. Why? She didn't want us to meet. I wanted to before I died. And you? And I want to hear what you will tell her. On Sunday, they bought flowers and came to the cemetery. It was a quiet, clear day. The wind rustled the yellowed grass. Andrei led Mikhail to the grave. In the photograph, Valentina Petrovna looked exactly as she had in recent years. A stern look, neatly styled hair, a barely noticeable smile. Mikhail stopped a few steps away. For a long time, I hesitated to approach. Then he put down the flowers and took off his cap. Hello, Valia, he said quietly. Here we meet. Andrei stepped aside, leaving him alone. He didn't hear all the words. Mikhail spoke quietly. Sometimes he paused. Sometimes he shook his head, as if arguing with someone who was no longer there. A few minutes later, he returned to Andre. His eyes turned red. "What did they say?" "This is between us. It's clear." They stood in silence. "I was angry with her for a long time," said Mikhail. "I thought that one day I'd see her and say everything. But now I've come here and realized I don't want to talk anymore." "Have you forgiven?" "I don't know. I guess forgiveness doesn't happen overnight. I'm just tired of carrying this resentment." Andre looked at his mother's photograph. "I haven't forgiven you yet either. And don't rush. You just said that you were tired of being offended. This is my offense. You will have to deal with yours yourself." Andre chuckled. "The first sensible advice today." Mikhail walked away, and Andre remained near the grave. "Mom," he said, "I found it." The wind passed through the trees. "He turned out to be stubborn." "So you were right about that. He lives alone, does everything himself, and doesn't tell anyone when he's feeling down." Andre straightened the flowers. "I'm angry with you. Very angry. I'll probably be angry for a long time. But I heard the tape, and I understood why you were silent." He ran his hand over the cold stone. "I don't know if I've forgiven, but I'll try." As he left, Andre turned around. For a moment, he imagined a completely different life. Young Valentina walks along the path. Mikhail is next to her. A little boy runs between them. This past never existed, but there was still a future ahead. And now there was no need to invent it. It simply had to be lived. Chapter 19. Old Photograph. Several months passed. Mikhail returned to Berezovka, but now he was rarely alone for long. Almost every weekend someone came to visit him. Most often, Andre. Sometimes with Lena, sometimes with Marina and Anton. In the spring, they began renovating the house together. They re-roofed part of the roof, painted the fence, and restored the old bench in the yard. "The color is wrong," Mikhail said, examining the fresh paint. "Normal color? Too blue. The fence was blue before." "Another blue one." "Mikhail Sergeyevich, there is simply a color blue." "That's what people who don't understand anything about paint say." Andre threw the brush into the bucket. "Then finish it yourself." "I would have finished if you hadn't smeared everything all over the boards." 10 minutes later, they were painting together again. Anton planted sunflowers near the fence. "So that it looks like an old photograph," he explained. In the summer, the plants grew taller than the boy. One warm day, Marina set up a tripod in the yard. "Everyone stand near the house." "Why?" Andre asked. "Family photo." "I'm wearing work clothes. You look great." "There is paint on my shirt." "Stand so that it can't be seen." Mikhail sat down on the bench. Andre and Lena sat nearby. Marina stood behind them, and Anton settled down next to Mikhail. The camera blinked. "One more," Marina said. "Why two?" asked Mikhail. At first, Grandfather Andre blinked. "I didn't blink." "Blinked." "How do you know? You didn't even look." "I've known you all my life." We took a second picture, then the third. In the evening, Marina printed out the best photograph and placed it next to the old one. In the first, young Mikhail was holding little Andre. Behind them stood a wooden house and sunflowers. On the second, they sat outside the same house almost half a century later. Only now, there was a large family nearby. Andre looked at both photos for a long time. There was a whole life between them. Years of silence, other people's decisions, letters that never arrived, and words that no one dared to say. But the second photo still appeared, and perhaps it was she who was more important than the first. This is the story that once happened to an ordinary person who simply decided to dismantle an old closet. Of course, Andrei was unable to return the lost years. He didn't hear his father read him bedtime stories. They didn't walk to school together, build their first bike, or argue about coming home late. Mikhail wasn't present at his son's wedding. He didn't hold his newborn granddaughter. He didn't see his great-grandson take his first steps. Some things really can't be fixed. But Andrei understood. Lost time is not a reason to lose what is left. We often wait for the right moment. To call your parents, to make peace with a friend, to talk to your kids, to admit your mistake, or just to tell someone you care about them. It seems like tomorrow will be more convenient. That first you need to finish work, solve problems, wait until the weekend. But life rarely warns when the time for an important conversation is running out. Sometimes the letter is 30 years late. Sometimes a person comes too late. And sometimes the door can still be opened. So, if you've just remembered someone you've been meaning to call, maybe you shouldn't put it off again. It is not necessary to start with big words. You can simply ask, "How are you?" Sometimes this is where the road home begins. Epilogue. A year later. Exactly 1 year after the day Andrei found the letter, the family gathered again in Berezovka. The reason was simple: Mikhail's birthday. He turned 77. They decided to hold the party in the yard. Lena brought homemade pies, Marina ordered a large cake, and Anton prepared a gift in advance, hiding it in the shed until the last minute. Anna Pavlovna came too. At first, she refused. "I won't go. Mikhail and I have fought our whole lives. Why break tradition in our old age?" But Andrei still managed to persuade her. At least come for tea. For half an hour. As a result, Anna Pavlovna sat until the evening, remembering her youth and correcting Mikhail every time, in her opinion, he told something incorrectly. "It was completely different," she said. "You weren't there at all," Mikhail answered. "Valia told me. 10 years after the event. But her memory was better than yours. Everyone has a better memory than me, if you believe me." They argued, but there was no longer the same anger in these arguments. Andrei stood by the grill, keeping an eye on the meat. Mikhail tried to offer advice several times, but was sent off to his guests. "You made the fire too strong," he said. "Normal. The meat will burn." "It won't burn." "The coals need to be distributed." "Mikhail Sergeyevich, it's your birthday. Go and rest." "I didn't live 77 years to eat burnt meat." Andrei handed him the tongs. "Then cook it yourself." "No way. Once you start, finish." "I thought so." After lunch, Anton brought a long bundle from the barn. "This is for you," he said to Mikhail. "To me?" "Just be careful." There was a new fishing rod inside. Mikhail looked at it for a few seconds, checked the reel, and ran his fingers along the rod. "Good thing. Grandfather Andrei and I chose." "So the seller helped?" "Why is that?" Andrei was indignant. "Because you don't understand anything about fishing rods." "Last time my fish was bigger than yours." 2 centimeters. For 4. The fish grows after every story. Anton laughed. "We'll measure it now. I saved the photos." "That's right," said Mikhail. "There should be at least one honest person in the family." As the sun began to set, Marina took out her camera again. "Let's take a group photo." Everyone gathered near the house. Mikhail sat in the center. Anna Pavlovna sat to his right, Anton to his left. Andrei and Lena stood behind him. "And you?" Andrei asked Marina. "I'll set the timer." She set up the camera and quickly ran over to the others. At the last second, Anton raised a new fishing rod over his head, hit Mikhail, who pushed Anna Pavlovna, and she indignantly swung her handkerchief at him. It was at that moment that the camera went off. "They ruined everything," Marina said after looking at the photo. But Andre looked over her shoulder. Everyone was laughing in the photo. "No," he said. "Leave this one." "Nobody looks at me properly here." "That's why. Leave it." In the evening, the guests left. Marina and Anton headed home first. Lena stayed with Anna Pavlovna to help carry her things. Andre and Mikhail were sitting near the river. Between them stood 2 fishing rods, their floats bobbing slightly in the water. "It was a good day," said Mikhail. "Tired?" "There is a little." "Let's go into the house." "Let's sit a little longer." They were silent for several minutes. "I was thinking about Nikolai today," Mikhail said unexpectedly. Andre turned to him. "Why?" If he hadn't done what he did back then, everything would have turned out differently. Valia and I might have gotten married. You would have grown up here. Maybe. Or maybe we would have fought anyway. Maybe Valia would have returned to the city. Maybe I would have turned out to be a bad father. We will never know. Yes. Mikhail adjusted the line. I spent a long time imagining the life we could have had. In my mind, it was always a happy one. But that's not fair. When a person imagines a failed past, they don't add the usual problems. Which? Quarrels, lack of money, illness, renovating this house, your adolescence. I was a quiet teenager. At 16, everyone considers themselves calm. Mom said there were no problems with me. Because I wanted to save your reputation. Andre smiled. You're probably right. I'm not making excuses for Nikolai, Mikhail continued. But I no longer want to think that he stole my perfect life. There's no such thing as a perfect life, anyway. There is a real one. That's exactly it. Andre's float twitched. It's biting, said Mikhail. Andre took the fishing rod, but the fish had already gotten away. You pulled the trigger too early, Mikhail noted. Late. It's too early. I saw it myself. That's why I didn't catch anything. Andre put down his fishing rod. You know, sometimes I regret finding that letter. Mikhail looked at him in surprise. Why? Because everything was clear before. Mother is mother. Nikolai is a dead father. You are a person I didn't know. No one was to blame. There was no need to sort things out with anyone. And now? Now everything is more complicated. Do you regret coming? Andre looked at the old man. No, never once. Mikhail nodded and turned back to the river, the conversation that Andre had been putting off. A few days later, Andre met with his daughter. They were sitting in a small cafe not far from her work. Marina was in a hurry and kept glancing at her phone. Did you want to talk about something? She asked. Yes. Did something happen? No. I just wanted to apologize. Marina put her phone down. For what? Andre stirred the long-dissolved sugar with a spoon. For the fact that I was often not around when you were growing up. Dad, we already talked about this. No. You were talking, and I was explaining why I worked so much. It's not the same thing. Marina remained silent. I missed your first concert, Andre continued. I promised to come, but I took the booking. You later said everything was fine. I was 9. I remember. I was looking for you in the hall the whole concert. I know. Where? Mom told me. Andre lowered his eyes. I also didn't go to the seaside with you. I didn't come to the parent-teacher meeting when you were unfairly accused at school. And when you decided to get a divorce, I told you to be patient for the sake of the child. That's why I was really angry at you. I was afraid you'd be left alone, and I decided I knew better how you should live. A family habit? It turns out that yes. Marina smiled, but her eyes became wet. I don't want to make excuses, Andrei said. I'm just asking for forgiveness. The daughter covered his hand with hers. I forgave you a long time ago. That doesn't mean I shouldn't have said it. It doesn't mean that. And one more thing. If I start making decisions for you again, I'll let you know. I have no doubt about it. I'll announce it loudly. They laughed. Andrei left the cafe and stood near the car for a while. This conversation took less than half an hour, and he put it off for almost 10 years. It was then that Andrei finally realized that the letter he found had changed not only his relationship with Mikhail, it made him look at the people who had already been there all this time. The last gift. At the beginning of autumn, Mikhail called Andrei and asked him to come alone. What happened? He asked immediately. Nothing. Is everything okay with your health? It's fine, I just have some business. Andrei arrived the next day. Mikhail was waiting for him in the barn. A small wooden box sat on the workbench. Open up. There was a model airplane inside, but not the old one, made many years ago. This one was new, carefully sanded and coated with clear varnish. For Anton? Andrei asked. No, for you. I already have one. That one is for children, and this one is for adults. How does an adult airplane differ from a children's airplane? It takes longer for an adult to do this. Their eyesight isn't what it used to be. Andrei carefully took out the model. On the underside of the wing was carved the following inscription: To my son, better late than never. Thank you, Andrei said quietly. I wanted to suggest something. What? Mikhail took documents out of his pocket. Transfer the house to your name. No. You didn't even look at the papers. And I won't. I have no one else to leave him with. That's no reason to give it away now. Andrei, don't even start. You can live here as long as you want. I'm not going to die tomorrow. Then why this conversation? So that problems don't arise later. Andrei took the documents, folded them, and returned them to Mikhail. Let's come to an agreement. We'll draw up the paperwork, but the house will remain yours. No talk about who gets it as long as you live here. That's pretty much what I meant. Then why didn't you tell me right away? I wanted to see how you would react. And how? It's noisy. Andrei put the plane back in the box. Mikhail Sergeyevich, can I ask you one question? Certainly. Why don't you call me son? Mikhail was at a loss. I'm calling. Only in captions, or when you talk about me to others, but never to my face. The elderly man turned to the barn window. I don't know if I have the right. And I don't know if I can call you father. Don't force yourself. I'm not forcing you. Mikhail nodded. So, everything has its time. Andrei raised a wooden plane. Okay, Dad. Can you help me carry it to the car? Mikhail froze. Just one short word. Andrei said it calmly, without preparation, and only then did he realize what had happened. Michael turned slowly. I'll help, son. They took hold of the box from both sides, although each of them could easily carry it alone. But some things are better carried together. Later, Andrei often recalled that evening when he opened his mother's closet. If he'd decided to put off cleaning, the letter could have lain there for several more months, perhaps several years. Or perhaps it would have been accidentally thrown out with the old papers. But the envelope was still found. The truth didn't make the past beautiful. It didn't turn the guilty into innocence, and it didn't provide easy answers. But she gave people back the opportunity to choose for themselves. Andrei could have been offended, but he chose to make acquaintance. Mikhail could have continued waiting, but he opened the door. Marina could have considered the family secret as someone else's problem, but she accepted the new grandfather. Even his memory of Nikolai gradually changed. Andrei no longer saw him as either the ideal father or a complete villain. He saw a man who had made a grave mistake and then tried to correct it. This is what real life looks like sometimes. It's rare to find those who are completely right and those who are completely wrong. Much more common are people who love, fear, make mistakes, and find the right words too late. The main thing is to actually pronounce them, while the one they are intended for can still hear. So that's our story. I hope you found it interesting. Sweet dreams.